now moving on to our next session, which is going to be a fireside chat on the topic of what's the next big tech innovation. Can I please call upon stage Dr. Rubaiyat Sadat, Managing Director at Mulytic Energy Solutions, and Osama Ali, Product Manager at Snoonu.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Fireside Chat. The topic today is what's the next big tech innovation, which itself is a billion-dollar question. Whoever knows the answer would actually be a billionaire right now. So, here today, I'm Dr. Rubaiyat Sadat. Founder, Chairman, Managing Director of Mulytic Labs. It's a group of companies. In one of the sister concern is the Mulytic Energy Solutions, working on the electric vehicle ecosystem and intelligent energy management for the charging infrastructure. And here today I have with me Mr. Osama Ali, Product Manager of Lulu. And Osama, introduce yourself to the crowd.
Sure. So I've done a brief introduction, but I'm a product manager at Snoonu. It's an ambitious startup that's hoping to be the first unicorn coming out of Qatar. My job goes all over the place, but it's primarily centered around tech, whether from aligning stakeholders to working with different product teams and technical teams to achieve business outcomes and improve the product that we're all using in Qatar.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm quite sure being really close to technology, and this is a perfect topic for us to discuss about what's the future landscape look like in the tech, especially for innovation. So we have seen advances in, for example, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, metaverse. We had already in this conference, since yesterday, we had very, very interesting topics on metaverse, on immersive technologies, and we have also today on fintech. So there are a lot of areas that are there. And we have seen in the last couple of years, not decades, but a couple of years, because tech is pushing the boundaries to the next level. So the innovation is there, the all sort of advances there. It's just so rapid. We still cannot correctly predict what's next. We can't predict what would be in the next 5 years. We can't even predict what tech is coming in the next year. So given this whole spectrum of a really diversified and so advanced in technology, if I go back to about the perpetual learning out of it, so I'm going back to on a really concrete topic questions to you. So tech is everywhere. So from your perspective, what do you think for any company to adapt the technology and the advances in technology, what type of new skills that people should adapt to?
So rightfully said, the next big tech innovation is near impossible to predict, if not impossible, because tech has become such a wide umbrella that covers many different sectors, many different industries, many different types of technologies, that it it it's so hard to pinpoint what the next big innovation will be, because at one industry might develop more rapidly than others, even depending on geography or country or policies or etc. So to me, when I was thinking of how to approach this topic, I noticed that there is a common thread, which is data. Um, all of us in this day use technology, but the underlying um, base that really, whether subconsciously or consciously, everyone is using is data. So looking out at how previously we used data and learned from data, it was very primitive. It was very, hey, like you're just analyzing something. Meanwhile, today in tech specifically, you're no longer looking at data to just analyze. You're also looking at data to predict, and some industries are even going a step further where they're using data to prescribe the solution to a problem that will emerge. So it becomes all of a sudden very abstract. But it also brings the question, well, since tech is so rapidly improving, are we as humans also rapidly adapting? And I'll mention the very basic example. Let's say 10 years ago, it was something to say that you are proficient in Microsoft Office Suite. Now that's kind of an assumption. You use you use either Word, PowerPoint, Excel, whatever. You use it on a near daily basis, if not a daily basis. So, okay, so that's no longer the impressive thing anymore, or the something that you need to take active steps into learning. Then what is? And to me, like I said, I always went back to data. So to me, as an employee and as a human being, I want to be able to do my work as efficiently as possible. And technology is very much helps us do that. It's just, okay, what do I need to learn? Uh, and and I would say that, or I would, my hypothesis, spoken like a product manager, my hypothesis is, if you focus on learning tools that help you with data, then you will be in a much better position in the industry, or at least to keep up with the rapid improvements in technology.
All right. So what I got from you. So for example, for an organization, so organization has different departments. It starts with like finance, with HR. It's not only a tech, but also HR. Their sales and marketing team. So giving this whole landscape of technology. So, and you mentioned about data. So do you think, so non-tech people, like for example, the HR department in an organization, they would also should adapt to technology, or at least some tools that are based on technology?
Absolutely. So HR, there are plenty of HR solutions right now, but HR previously used to be, okay, our target is we need to hire X number of people, or X number per department, and keep the company environment or the work environment positive, whatever that means. Now there are more solid KPIs and indicators to track these things, but um, learning how to look at data, how to capture data, and how to analyze data can open the door to many opportunities that you might not realize as a person working in HR. For example, you may realize that, okay, I have met my target for hiring people, um, and but I still see that we need to hire more. Well, why is that? And then you can either go to BI, the business intelligence department, and tell them, can you try and see and run an investigation to see what happened? Or you could do that yourself. So ideally, in many companies right now, HR files or records are maintained digitally, which unlocks room for many opportunities. Um, you could all of a sudden analyze the data, group them by date, group them by demographic, group them by I don't know, gender, whatever metrics all you can do, and all of a sudden, what used to previously take, let's say, I don't know, a week, can now all of a sudden be done in 10 minutes. It's just the HR person needs to learn how to extract that data rather than rely on someone else to get that data for them, because then you're being a lot more efficient with your work and you can get a lot of data, and at the same time it unlocks more room for learning. If you find one insight that you were not expecting, all of a sudden you might have more questions. It's like, okay, what about that data point, or what about that data point? And if you have to go back to the data analysts every time you want to run something, you're not going to finish your work. So I very much see technology emerging heavily. To now, it's no longer a requirement for a tech person to know tech. It's a requirement for every employee to know tech, to varying degrees, obviously. But the view of the world has shifted from everyone needs to be aligned towards the business objectives and the business outcomes. So I can't afford to just operate in a vacuum. So I need to optimize the employee's workflow towards delivering these business outcomes. If I need to hire the more tailored people as an HR person, then I need the data to help me figure out, okay, which persons are more likely suited to be in the company. That's one example for HR.
So going back to the topic, so the next tech innovation. So we are seeing the emergence of metaverse and all these things. So in this learning perspective, because, well, we could easily, you rightly mentioned about the data. Yeah, data is everything. So we have known it for decades. Like it's the time of data. But for example, what's next in the tech world, such as metaverse? Do you think that these platforms would really help human being to sort of like to have this analytic capability and manipulating the data to reach the business goal? Do you think this way?
Absolutely. So let's take the metaverse, for example. What the L&D department is responsible for improving and developing the careers of its employees, right? So you can easily run that through actual real simulations on the metaverse, for example. Well, that's what I see happening, hopefully, is um, in you can tackle these scenarios. Let's say, for example, you get you're in the sales department and you need to increase your number of generated leads. So what you do then is you can feed the metaverse with previous data points, and then you can some software is going to run some analysis on this and optimize it. And then you can teach this. You can all of a sudden bring a live scenario in an employee to the metaverse and make them experience a live scenario. Oh, okay, maybe there's a certain negotiation tactic that's more likely to work than others, or there's a certain part of, let's say, a contract that can be phrased in a different way, and all of a sudden that's more likely to attract a lead. And you can run these directly in the metaverse, where you can let the employee test themselves, and then you see where they need to improve using a real life scenario. They'd be standing in front of a hypothetical lead based on real life data, and all of a sudden they're negotiating and they're trying to get a better deal. And then you would the innovation or the tech would be able to kind of show you how you could do this better based on previous data points.
So, so now you just have mentioned, and what I heard is about, it's what do you call this, democratizing the technology across the organization. So, for the leadership, yeah. So the leadership from the strategic point of view. So they have to, they have to adapt, as you just rightly mentioned. They have to adapt technology and democratizing it. So to do that, so we are talking about like the learning right now, but inside the organization, to really implement this democratizing the technology across the organization, we have seen, for example, usually it's the IT, or IT as a service, I call it. But I guess there's a shift now because of this. So as a product manager, so you being the product manager, from the product management perspective, how do you see this democratization of technology across the organization?
There are different facets to it. Let's take IT for one example. An IT expert now is, or well, even IT as a service, you're no longer required to just do basic hardware and software maintenance. It's rare that you will find somebody now just replacing printers or updating the system firmware and stuff like that. The technology has become smart enough to do that for you. But for example, now the IT has kind of shifted to becoming the backbone of the tech stack to enable it to work efficiently. So a big ignored facet of software in many companies is security and cybersecurity. In Snoonu, there was in the past a leak of data because somebody had a super basic password. So what ended up happening is all of a sudden we've realized that IT and security are very closely related to each other. So all of a sudden, the IT expert now is responsible for um, security policies, for finding tools that enable the democratization of data while maintaining the security of the system. They also control what levels of access to the different tools they have. So it's no longer a basic IT job anymore. They're empowered to move beyond that and become the backbone of the company. Where, yeah, sure, it's not it's having a tool that democratizes the well, not democratizes the data, but like having a tool that increases the security might not necessarily um, uh, get the company revenue. Uh, Actually, then technically you're paying for that service, so you're losing. But it's an investment, because if you do not invest in that, then and something happens, then the loss is going to be much worse. Um, Talking specifically about myself as a product manager, like I said, I am constantly talking with different stakeholders, whether it's chiefs, whether it's managers, whether it's heads of departments. Well, I need to be able to kind of wear different hats and talk to different people. And you, the Word and PowerPoint are very, very important tools to me when talking to people, because I need to show numbers. I need to show how this feature will help X. I need to convince a stakeholder that this feature is better prioritized than Y feature. But I don't have PowerPoint and Word on my CV. It's just it's become like it's become part of my tool set, and it's become essential for a product manager to know this, that it, you're no longer looking at what technologies do you know or what tools do you know. You're looking at how can you help the business. I need to uh, meet business objective X, so therefore I need to do some prioritization and then communicate that to the stakeholders. So my tool of communication in this case is PowerPoint, but it's assumed across the company right now that I know what PowerPoint is and I know my way around PowerPoint. You don't have to be a guru at it, but you need to be able to to communicate the business objective. It all ties back to the business objective. The tool is just a tool. It helps you achieve the business objective. It is not the business objective. So yeah, it's kind of that's the way that I see data democratization happening. So if you're in a situation where you are not there yet, where you are still having people in the company who are not so good with technology, and maybe what we consider basic tools are not basic for them. In that case, it is the responsibility of the company to invest in these employees and bring them up to speed, because technology is not slowing down. So you need to help the employees catch up.
So great that you mentioned actually my next question and next topic I wanted to discuss. It's the security, the cybersecurity. And I would also like to add one very, very important topic. So regardless of whatever biggest technologies, biggest innovation we are upcoming in the maybe next years, it's the data privacy. So you have mentioned about metaverse. So you have mentioned about like data. So usually what happens, clear, if I put it in a really naive sentence, is if I get more data, I will get more insight on things. So for example, in metaverse, If I have more and more data, then I will kind of like would provide a more personalized experience to the end user. But then the question is the privacy. So there's a sort of like a kind of it sounded like a contradictory thing. So we need more data, but to need more data, we might go beyond the boundary of privacy. So do you think that both security and data privacy should be, whatever the innovation comes into a place in the next future, but those two topics would be sort of like a very basic vertical layer of a tech stack, because you are as a really tech guy, do you think it is really important? Because for example, like I'm quite sure this chat, there are a lot of startups, they're tech startups, they're building their product, and usually when they build a product, those two topics, the security and privacy, they are like they usually have the lowest priority, unless that startup is based on the privacy or security. What's your take on it? What's your statement about the data privacy in this regard?
I would say it is very much like you said. It's kind of conflicting. It's very much a paradox because I am sure all of us would love a personalized experience in whatever tools, applications, even in our free time. Um, we want a personalized experience. We want to get what we want out of the tool, not what the tool thinks we want out of the tool. So it's interesting that that's what we want, but in return, we need to enable these tools to get more than a sneak peek into our lives in terms of the data that's being fetched. I had this example in happened to me in Snoonu. I was interviewing a customer, and I basically was tracking their every movement on the app using some tool. And so I asked her some questions, and she said regarding like personalization or how to personalize the feature further. And he was like, absolutely. And then I basically took her experience, basically the set of events that she had done on the tool, and produced a new version of that feature and showed it to her. And she was shocked because I later showed her that I managed to see every single move she did on the app. Every single tap, every single swipe, every single piece of information. I could compile about, using her information, I could compile a report about the list of drivers that delivered her orders. So she was very shocked by this, and I, well, pressed her further. And I told her, why is this all of a sudden an issue? And it turns out it's because she doesn't realize it. I was like, okay, well, the app clearly states it. So where's the gap? I dove further with her, and it came down to this. I told her, do you want a more personalized experience? Yes. Are you willing to give off X, Y, and Z data? And I actually showed her like a list of kinds of data that I would need to gather about. And then there was no answer for a very long time. And then it ended with a no. And so this is where the paradox is. Everyone wants a personalized experience, but not everyone is willing to give that kind of data about it. and the reality is, whether consciously or subconsciously we realize it, it's we're already, probably some company, probably the big companies already have like fully fledged profiles about what we are right now and who we are going to be throughout the entire life, probably based on the previous list of interests, or what we browsed, or what we decided we will eat today, or whatever the case may be. So it boils down to this, just to tie it back to your question. In a startup environment, security, given like the rapid pace of change that you need to go through, maybe security is not the main concern. And I need to stress this: the security of the product itself might not be the main concern. If it's like internal APIs and stuff like that, sure. In a startup environment, you need to move faster, so we can come back and secure these like internal endpoints later. But security, when it comes to customer data, needs to always be a priority. When you're thinking of the next feature for your product, when you're thinking for the next venture, whenever you require customer data whenever you want to capture customer data, securing that data needs to be of paramount importance, because this is what will make the difference. Because, well, I haven't dug too much into it personally, but why did that woman say no to that list of data? Mm-hmm. And this is just my projection right now. This is not her answers. Is it because it's a lot of data to capture about the person? Or is it because she feared that it would be used in a malicious way? Or option C, that a hack or a leak happens and all of a sudden she has no control of her data anymore. I don't know. I did not ask her. But my hypothesis is it's probably a mix of worry that she was giving away her data without her realizing that, or without her knowing what this data is going to be used for. And in the case of a leak, an attack, a hack, whatever, how does she guarantee that her data is not going to fall into the wrong hands, and all of a sudden it could spiral into a whole set of harmful incidents for that person? So I think it's a mix of both, but when you're working on a product, you definitely need to put security when it comes to customer data on equal importance to the data itself that you're capturing.
Wonderful. I think we are kind of like sort of almost at the end. I think both of us, we could continue the chat for the whole day. I mean, there's lot we can talk about the tech innovation. I also remember, I would like to share this experience with you. So at the time I was working at Teradata Marketing Applications. Our office was in Munich. And I was being in the department of reliability engineering as a director. I remember at the time, it was a long time ago, 2011 or 12 at the time. And we were kind of like, we developed sort of like of course, having the consent of the user of the application. We created a feature which could actually start tracking the like in the web page, the scrolling of the web page, and whenever people kind of like stop on a particular banner, tracking what's the color of the banner, what's the profile of the guy, and we kind of like we well, at the time, it was a really long time ago. And at the time, we kind of like captured all the data, and we sort of like found out that they call this target audience. And before Christmas, like for example, in this time, we actually, so our clients actually using that data, they started a campaign, and the topic of the campaign was find out from the target audience, find out women with a particular age, younger age, who usually loves to wear red dress during the Christmas. So those were the kind of like, and everything was kind of like based on many different data points. Maybe a woman was kind of like scrolling through it and kind of like was stopped on a banner, and the banner was red, and maybe it's a cloth, maybe it's a long cloth and stuff like that. So I remember. So, but you got absolutely right. So I think we can continue here, the data privacy and stuff. Just before going to a Q&A session, we'll have a couple of questions from the audience. In the delivery space, because you are, as a product manager, in the delivery space, we have seen deliveries via drone and all these things. What's next? Do you predict in the delivery space regarding innovation?
In Snoonu, we're not at that level yet. In other delivery companies, they are very much already at the prediction stage. I do see Snoonu eventually going there, but you already have services that can predict when is your next delivery going to be, what's the likelihood, what products are going to be in that basket or in that cart. They know what kind of promotion is going to make you make that order, and they know how to, well, if you even want to take it to like a bit of an ethical dilemma, they know how to give you that delivery or ensure a high likelihood that you will rate their service high based on some numbers or some factors that they have control over. Whether that's ethical or not, that's a whole other discussion in ethics, but very much so in the delivery space, there are already several services that are already very much deep in the prediction game. And yeah, I can only see that increasing more and more as we go forward.
Thanks a lot, Osama. Thanks a lot to the audience for your patience for this chat. So we are almost at the end, and we would like to welcome 2-3 questions from the audience, if you have one.
Sorry, one question. We're running really behind on time, so we can take one question.
Yeah, sure. One question then.
Hey, Osama, thank you so much for the golden nuggets. And thank you so much for appreciating PowerPoint, because that's our bread and butter. My name is Kevin, and I run a small presentation design agency helping real estate companies in the US raise millions of dollars using their $1 million pitch deck. And we're trying to venture out to tech innovations. We want to help startups, craft their pitch decks and pitch their ideas to investors. Now, my question is, when it comes to persuading investors or stockholders, right? What has been the biggest challenge that you notice or you yourself experience? And is there anything that you can give us a tip on how to kind of break that challenge?
Okay. It's a long art, and well, now you've put me on the spot because there are a lot of C-level management in this room. But I would say be empathetic to their perspective. You might not agree with everything that they're saying, and but they have a point of view. you need to understand that point of view, and then you need to have a gut check with yourself about, okay, is what I am doing truly going to, is what you're doing in line with what they see the company or the business being? Because at the end of the day, they are experts. They're not just saying words because they want to say words. So you need to understand where they're coming from, and then tailor, I guess in your field, those slide decks. You need to understand the problem of the business very well. You need to, if you can, you should shadow them and shadow them, or maybe talk to them to really understand their problem and what they're trying to solve. They could be trying to convince a certain set of investors. So now all of a sudden you need to understand what kind of investor they're trying to convince, and then tailor your slides accordingly.
Thank you so much. Now that's a validation to the real estate market that we're also trying to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Osama. And me, Dr. Rubaiyat Sadat, signing off from the stage. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen. I know there were a few more people with questions. Please grab them during lunch, and you'll have many more networking opportunities throughout the day and tomorrow. So you're not going anywhere, are you? You're gonna be here? Yes, grab them.